In 2001, I was living in my family home in El Paso, Texas, with my grandmother, and we had a morning routine where when I had an early class, she would call me or wake me up in the morning. And that particular morning, she called me from the living room and said, "Davey, something's happened in New York." And it was a little bit odd for her. She didn't usually wake me up. I mean, I couldn't imagine what had happened that would make her be concerned enough to call me from out of the bedroom. I walked into the living room, and we sat there and we watched TV together. And this moment of like, what's happening? Like, what is this did a bomb go off? A plane hit a building? We're not sure what happened. Was it an accident? And then there was this moment where it all changed, where it went from what's going on to the United States is under attack, and our lives have changed forever. And obviously that wasn't obvious then, but everything had changed in that moment, and our hearts sunk. I wasn't sure what to do with myself, but I decided I was going to go up to the university and just see what was going on and talk to my peers. And they hadn't officially canceled school yet, so I went into my first class, which was my psychology class, and my professor got up there and said, the university hasn't canceled yet, but I'm canceling school for the rest of the day. This moment is going to be a day that was going to change your life. Go home and be with the people you love. It was really striking, and I wasn't ready to be alone. So I went to the student union, and there was this room in there with big pillows and stuff like that where everyone used to watch dumb movies. But today it was showing the news, and it wasn't laughter or anything. People were crying. Everyone was theorizing about what had happened, what was going on, and how things were going to change going forward. We learned a lot in that room over the next couple of years, and I don't think anybody on that day could have recognized what we were going to learn. We first heard the name Osama bin Laden in that room. We watched our troops march into Afghanistan and sort of experienced this moment together. And it's a weird moment in life. There's not too many moments, in my life at least, where there's this universal shared experience where we all were part of this thing that happened to us. We all experienced the mourning, the fear, and then the march to war that inevitably changed us individually and changed us as a country. There's this sort of dividing point in my mind of before 9/11 and after 9/11 where a lot has changed. My grandmother died, and I moved to Austin. I got married. It didn't last. And I changed careers. I felt like I had to do something, and I wasn't sure exactly what that something was going to be, but I had to kind of go in a direction. Telling you this is a lot harder than just saying it in the ether. And since then, I've had kids. I have two daughters, and I've had the opportunity to sit down and explain to them 9/11, and they have questions, just like I had questions from my uncle about Vietnam and my grandmother about the Great Depression. I sort of recognized once that 9/11 was my uncle's Vietnam or my grandmother's Great Depression, and this defining moment where nothing was going to be the same. The country, the world that I knew before 9/11 was impossible now. And a couple years ago, somebody posted an interactive news thing online where you could go through and watch the news coverage from beginning to end on every station, kind of universally. And one of the most striking things was that you sort of had the opportunity to watch the anchors who were talking about insignificant things like I think one of the major news stories was Michael Jordan, whether or not he was going to be back in basketball or baseball or one of them. But And it went from that to this feeling of all of a sudden recognizing that everything had changed.
As Matt just mentioned, we have a breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just a few moments ago.